seen a very clear shift in language from the RBA, the RBA governor talking about policy now in stricter setting, and now that a potential pause in the rate tightening cycle likely to be on the table. Compare that to a month ago when he was warning of multiple interest rate increases to come. And a big part of this shift in language is around what we're seeing around the Australian consumer. The update for the National Accounts last week showed consumer spending was a lot softer than had been expected going into year end, and had some pretty disturbing elements around the income and saving flows that we're seeing across the household sector as a whole. Basically, we've seen a big hit to real incomes from higher inflation and higher interest rates. And going forward, there's really not a lot of room for continued gains. We're facing into another soft read in the first quarter and probably for the rest of this year. In effect, to generate any gains in spending from here relies on households starting to draw down on that buffer of savings they accumulated during the COVID period. So that's going to be a bit of an issue about the sustainability of gains going forward. In fact, we've lowered our growth forecasts for the consumer this year. We expect consumption to rise just 0.7% for the year, and there's going to be a further stress test, obviously, as interest rates rise, and we'll see some more stress starting to emerge across the mortgage belt, but also probably across some of the low-income segments and rental segments as well. So if you were just to look at the Australian consumer at the moment, you'd say there's a very strong case for a pause. Policy tightening is adding to the slowdown at the moment. We're facing into quite a weak year for growth. But for the RBA, their primary concern is still high inflation, and they need to be absolutely comfortable that we're going to track back from that 8% high last year to target around 2 to 3% over the medium term, and they need to see more than just a slowdown in consumer spending to be comfortable with that. We need to see slower inflation abroad, some softening in the labour market, and more comfort around that wages growth piece domestically. So for the RBA, they really are going into this April meeting with a few different options on the table, and a lot's going to depend on how some of this wider data pans out in the next month.